I had just walked out of the courtroom. The ink was still drying on the final divorce decree when my phone buzzed, but it wasn't a call. It was my son, 11 years old, pale as chalk, his voice trembling so hard I barely understood the words. "Dad." Mom's guy just came in through the back with 2 guards. He didn't need to say more. My gut twisted into something primal. I dropped the envelope in my hand, shoved open the courthouse doors, and drove faster than I'd ever driven in my life. I didn't even knock when I got home. The back door was cracked open. That was the kind of arrogance this man had, walking into my house like he owned it, like my wife was a prize and he was here to collect. I caught his shadow in the hallway, and something inside me snapped. I didn't shout. I didn't ask questions. I just moved. "Time to pay for what you did with my wife," I said, my voice low, cold, the kind of voice you don't hear from a man unless you've broken something sacred. What happened next is a blur. A flash of fists, a bottle smashed on the wall, screams. One of his guards lunged at me, but he wasn't fast enough. I had years of buried rage trained into every hit. When I finally saw her, Jessica, my wife of 13 years, she wasn't running to stop me. She wasn't even speaking. She was crying. Not for me. Not for our son. She collapsed on the floor the moment that guy screamed. That told me everything. She wasn't crying from fear. She was crying because her world, the one she built behind my back, was falling apart. But let me take you back a little. Let me show you how a loyal man turns into someone willing to throw fists in his own living room. Let me show you what betrayal smells like up close. It didn't start with a kiss or a lie. It started with silence. Jessica stopped looking me in the eye during dinner. She'd laugh at her phone more than my jokes. The perfume changed. The late nights multiplied. She said it was work. I wanted to believe her. But there's a way a woman looks at you when you're her man, and that look had died months ago. She'd go to the bathroom with her phone, lock the door, come out acting annoyed, distant. I made excuses for her. She was tired. Work was stressful. Then one day, my son came home and said, "Why does mom always drop me off at practice and then go somewhere for an hour?" I asked where she went. He didn't know. She always turned off the GPS. So I checked her laptop. She forgot to log out of her email. I wish I hadn't opened it. Photos. Messages. One video. She was in my house, wearing a dress I bought her for our anniversary, sitting on this guy's lap, whispering things in his ear. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the screen like it was a stranger's life. Like maybe if I closed the tab fast enough, it wouldn't be real. But it was. And it got worse. They had been planning it. Not just the affair. My replacement. They talked about how they'd ease me out. How I was emotionally dull and stable enough to keep things together until it's convenient. She said I was like a dull knife in a pretty kitchen. I'd never felt so violated in my life. I didn't confront her that night. I waited. I wanted her to feel the comfort, the lie, until I pulled the whole rug out from under her. So I filed. Silently. Built the case, copied everything, talked to my lawyer, froze our accounts, protected my son. And the moment the judge signed that last page, her entire little empire began to burn. That's when she sent him. But what she didn't know, what he didn't know, was that I had waited my whole life to defend my name, my blood, my dignity. And when I saw that shadow step into my house, I stopped being the dull knife. I became the man no one expected. After the fight, after the shouting, after the cops came and broke it all up, I sat on the front porch, knuckles bruised, shirt torn, blood still drying on my temple. They didn't arrest me. One of the officers whispered, "If half of what your kid told us is true, you should have hit harder." Jessica was inside, sobbing like the victim. Like she was the one betrayed. But the truth? She was just caught. I wasn't always this man. I was the kind of husband who left notes in her car, who made breakfast even when I had 5 minutes before work. I remembered dates. I remembered her coffee order. And now I couldn't even remember why I married her. Let me tell you how she sold the lie. A year ago, she said she was taking on a new role at work. More hours, more pressure, more travel. She looked me in the eye and said, "This could change everything for us." I thought she meant our future. She meant her exit strategy. She started dressing different. Not bad, not sleazy, just more calculated. Everything tight, perfect, deliberate. Like she was curating herself for someone new. But the worst part? She made me feel guilty. If I asked why she was late, she'd sigh like I was controlling her. If I called her during work trips, she'd answer once and then claim, "Bad signal." There was this one night. I'll never forget it. I had made dinner. Candlelight, her favorite wine, ribs slow cooked for 6 hours. I wanted to remind her who we were. She came in, looked at the table, and said, "You know I'm trying to lose weight. This is kind of selfish." Then she sat on the couch, scrolled her phone, and ignored me the rest of the night. That was the night I stopped believing in her. But I didn't stop hoping. Because that's what men like me do. We give chances until there's nothing left to give. I tried to talk to her. "Jess, are you happy?" She looked up from her phone. Blank stare. No warmth. I don't know what that even means anymore. Then she turned away. No fight. No affection. Just cold, practiced apathy. It was like she was waiting for me to break up with her so she wouldn't have to get her hands dirty. But I didn't give her that. I gave her silence. I started documenting everything. Taking screenshots. Backing up files. Tracking when she left. Where she went. Not because I wanted revenge, not yet. Because I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that I wasn't just some insecure husband imagining shadows. And the proof came faster than I expected. Her email was just the start. Then I found the receipts. Hotel bookings under fake names. A burner phone hidden in the back of her car, taped under the seat. That was the day I knew. This wasn't some emotional mistake. This was planned. She was playing chess while I thought we were building a home. And the worst part? She didn't even seem ashamed. When I finally confronted her, "That part's coming soon," she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Well, maybe if you were half the man he is, I wouldn't need someone else." No remorse. No apology. Just venom. And I realized I wasn't married to the woman I thought I knew. I was married to a stranger who wore my last name like a costume. But that costume was coming off, piece by piece. And I was going to be the one to tear it off. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. That would have made her feel important. No, I waited for the perfect moment. 3 weeks before the divorce was finalized, I invited her to dinner. Candlelight again. Same ribs. Same table. This time, not for love, but for closure. She walked in wearing a tight navy dress I'd never seen before. "Big night?" I asked. She smiled, plastic, fake. "You said we were having dinner." I pulled out her chair like a gentleman. She sat, crossed her legs, checked her phone. I didn't eat. Just watched her take the first bite. "So, Jessica, who's Derek?" She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. "What? Derek? The guy who booked room 406 with you 3 weekends in a row. The guy who sends you money through Venmo with the pizza emoji." Silence. Then a slow, cruel smirk. "You went through my stuff," she said, like I was the problem. "No," I said calmly, placing the printed hotel receipts in front of her. "I went through your lies." She didn't even try to deny it. She took a sip of wine, leaned back, and said, "Okay, so what? What now? You want to cry about it?" I swear I've never hated someone as much as I hated her in that moment. This was the woman I built a life with. The mother of my child. The girl I once held under fireworks and whispered dreams to. And now she was just poison. "You were my wife," I said. "You had a home, a son, a man who would have bled for you." She laughed. Laughed. "You? Bleed? You couldn't even raise your voice. You were predictable. Safe. I needed more. More." That word hit me like a truck. That's what I was not enough. She stood up, walked to the sink, and poured out her wine. "You think this little dinner's gonna fix it? Gonna make me fall back in love with you?" I stayed seated, calm, controlled. No, I didn't cook dinner to fix anything. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the flash drive. Everything's on here. Emails, hotel logs, voice memos. You two idiots even FaceTimed from my kitchen once. She looked nervous for the first time. "You recorded me?" "No, you recorded yourself. I just saved it." That was the first time the mask slipped. She tried to play strong, but I saw her hands tremble. "I'm gonna tell the judge you spied on me." "I didn't need to," I said, standing up. "You were so proud of it, Jess. You paraded it around like a trophy. But guess what?" I leaned in close, voice low. "Trophies belong to winners." I left her standing there, shaking, alone. She thought she had control, that I'd beg, that I'd crumble. But the truth was, I had already let her go. This dinner wasn't a last attempt. It was a funeral. And she was the only one who didn't know she was the one being buried. That dinner was the beginning of her unraveling, not mine. I'd already burned my grief. Let it smolder in silence until there was nothing left but clean, cold focus. But Jessica? She wasn't built for exposure. She thrived in secrecy. Lies were her air, manipulation her heartbeat. Once the truth came out, she started choking on her own games. The next morning, I dropped the flash drive off with my lawyer. He opened it, scrolled through a few files, then looked at me with that quiet expression that says, "You were too good for her." He didn't have to say it. The divorce proceedings, once a tangled web of her demands and guilt-tripping tactics, flipped on their head. Suddenly, she wasn't confident anymore. She wasn't entitled to half now, she was negotiating from her knees. She sent her sister to call me. "Seth, she's falling apart." She didn't mean for it to go this far. I hung up. I wasn't about to let anyone rewrite the truth. Jessica knew exactly what she was doing. Every late night, every burner phone, every weekend getaway where our son thought she was on a business trip. It was all scripted betrayal. Now the audience just had the receipts. And she hated it. 2 days later, I got a call from my son's school. "Mr. Green," the counselor said, "your son had a rough morning." He seemed shaken. I picked him up, and the moment he got in the car, he said, "Mom had a man over again last night. They were fighting. Loud. She was crying." He left angry. I tightened my grip on the wheel. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was about my boy. And I swore that moment she would never get full custody. I had enough leverage to make sure she'd be lucky to get him on weekends. I filed a petition that week. My lawyer compiled everything: the instability, the inappropriate guests around our child, the emotional neglect. Jessica tried to fight it. But in court, with the judge reading transcripts of her little pillow talks and my son's statement in hand, she looked like a woman on fire. She couldn't speak. She just sat there, mascara running, lips trembling, while her new lover sat 2 rows back, arms folded, not saying a word. Yeah, Derek, the so-called alpha who promised her the world, didn't even show up to testify for her. He bailed the moment things got messy. That's the thing with men like him. They want to play king but disappear the second the castle's under siege. After court, she tried to talk to me in the hallway. I'll never forget her face. Tired, pale, less polished. The heels she used to strut in like a runway model looked too high now. She wobbled in them. "Seth," she whispered, I didn't think it would destroy everything." I looked her in the eye, expression flat. "It didn't destroy everything. Just the lie you lived in." She reached for my arm. I pulled back. "You don't get to touch me anymore." I walked out of that courthouse without looking back. The sky was gray, but to me it felt like sun. I wasn't just free. I was clean. I had clawed my way through betrayal, rage, and humiliation, and come out the other side without bitterness in my mouth. Only clarity. Only steel. And she? She was left with exactly what she built. Nothing real. Nothing lasting. Nothing worth keeping. A week after the custody hearing, Jessica moved out of the house, not because the court ordered her to, but because she couldn't stand the silence inside it. She left behind the espresso machine she once bragged about to her friends, the framed wedding photo she kept for appearances. Even the gold necklace I gave her on our 5th anniversary sat forgotten in the bathroom drawer. I didn't touch any of it. Let it rot. That house wasn't ours anymore. It was mine, and every inch of it felt like mine again, even the quiet. Especially the quiet. But Jessica didn't go quietly. She tried to claw her way back. I got emails that read like tragic poems, messages at 3 a.m. saying she couldn't breathe without me. Then she flipped the script, started posting photos of herself with forced smiles, cocktails in hand, trying to show the world she was thriving. But I knew the truth. Her fake empire was crumbling. Turns out Derek wasn't her safety net. He was married, with a pregnant wife in Florida who had no idea about Jessica. When the wife found out, she called me. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said through tears. "My husband's a liar. But your wife, she's a monster." She wasn't wrong. Jessica had built a love triangle with no foundation. No integrity. Just smoke, mirrors, and lust. And when it all blew up, she had no one left to call. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. Not just my life, my identity. I started working out again. I signed up for boxing classes. Something about throwing punches into leather felt right. One night, my coach pulled me aside. "You hit like a man with unfinished business," he said. I nodded. "You could say that." He smiled. "Whatever it is, keep swinging." So I did. And slowly, piece by piece, I felt like I was becoming someone new, someone stronger, leaner, meaner, but not bitter. That was important. I didn't want to become like her. But Jessica? She was becoming something else. Her job found out about the affair not from me, but from someone in HR who stumbled across her burner phone in the break room. She was escorted out within days. And suddenly, that fancy condo she was leasing became a liability. I heard through her sister she moved into a small studio across town. No more shopping sprees. No more spa weekends. She pawned the bracelet I gave her on our wedding day. She emailed me one last time. Subject line, please. The message was short. You were right. I was selfish. I destroyed everything. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I wish I'd realized what I had before I lost it. I miss our son. I miss the version of myself I was with you. I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't reply. Not out of hatred, but because some things don't deserve closure. She made her choices. She dug her grave. And I was done handing her shovels. Now it was just me and my boy. A fresh start. No more lies. No more pretending. The war was over. But the rebuilding, that was just beginning. If there was one thing that kept me sane through all of it, the lies, the courtrooms, the late-night emails soaked in regret, it was my son. Landon, 11 years old. Wiser than he had any right to be. After everything that happened, I expected him to break down. To start acting out. Maybe even shut me out. But instead, he became sharper. Quieter. Like he understood things most adults refuse to see. One night, a few weeks after Jessica moved out, he walked into the living room where I sat staring at the wall. Dad, he said, standing in his pajamas with a serious look on his face, are you okay? I smiled. A real one. Not the kind I used to fake when Jessica would walk by in her new dress pretending our life was perfect. I'm getting there, I said. Are you? He shrugged. Mom says I'll understand one day. But I already do. I looked up. Understand what? That some people love themselves too much to love anyone else. It was like getting hit with a truth I didn't expect from such a small voice. I opened my arms, and he walked into them without hesitation. We sat like that for a while, father and son, survivors of a silent war we didn't start but sure as hell finished. I promised myself then, no matter how hard the next chapter got, I'd write it with him in mind. That meant rebuilding everything from the ground up. Our routines, our home, our trust. I repainted his room. Let him pick the colors, blue and silver, like the superhero he loved. We went to IKEA, built a new desk together. Even made a list of rules for just us guys. Rule number 1, no lies. Rule number 2, pizza every Friday. Rule number 3, don't talk to anyone who calls mom queen. He made that one. I didn't argue. Weekends became sacred. We'd go hiking, visit bookstores, hit the batting cages. I wanted him to see that life didn't end with betrayal, it began with honesty. And for me, that meant therapy. I started seeing a counselor. At first, I sat in silence, arms crossed, not knowing where to begin. But she waited, asked the right questions, helped me peel back the layers. You didn't just lose a wife, she said. You lost the idea of her. And sometimes that hurts more. She was right. I'd been grieving the woman I thought Jessica was, not the one who actually existed. I brought Landon to one session. We talked together. He asked questions that made my heart ache. Did you and Mom ever love each other? I did, I said honestly. And I think she did, in her own way. But sometimes love gets twisted when people are broken. He nodded. Didn't cry. Just understood. It scared me how much he understood. But it also gave me hope. Because if he could make sense of that storm and still hold his heart open, then maybe I could too. We started cooking together. He'd slice onions while I grilled. He told me jokes from school, and I laughed. Real, belly-deep laughter. The kind I hadn't felt in years. And in those moments, I realized something. This wasn't just about healing. It was about becoming the man I should have been before the storm hit. Stronger, calmer, wiser. Not for Jessica. Not for revenge. For me. And for the boy who looked up at me like I was his hero, even when I felt like I was crawling through the dirt. It had been 3 months since Jessica walked out of our lives. Landon was smiling more. I was sleeping again. The house had gone from a battlefield to a sanctuary. But peace has a way of testing you. And sometimes, the past doesn't knock politely. It kicks the damn door in. It was a Saturday. Landon and I had just come back from the park, muddy shoes, burgers in hand. That kind of good, simple day. I was unlocking the front door when I heard the sound I hadn't heard in weeks. Her voice. Landon. I turned. Jessica was standing on the sidewalk. She looked like hell. Hair messy, oversized sunglasses hiding puffy eyes, heels too high for the cracked pavement she stood on. I stepped in front of my son instinctively. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice low. She smiled, a broken, desperate kind of smile. I miss him, she said. I just wanted to see him. That's not a crime, is it? Landon didn't say a word. He just looked at her with that guarded stare he used to reserve for math tests. "Sweetie," she said, reaching out, "I know things were hard, but No," he said. Just one word. Firm. Final. Jessica's face crumbled. And for the first time, I felt pity. Not enough to forgive, but enough to feel sorry for what she'd become. She tried to push past me. "I just want to talk." "You had months to talk," I snapped. "But you chose lies, remember?" Her lip trembled. She looked at Landon, then back at me. "I lost everything," she whispered. "Derek left. My job's gone. I don't have anything left." I sighed. That's what happens when you treat people like tools. She looked stunned, like she couldn't believe I was saying that. And then she said it, the line I'll never forget. "I didn't think you'd stop loving me." I looked her straight in the eyes. "I didn't stop loving you, Jessica. You killed the man who did." Silence. Heavy. Unmovable. She stood there for a few more seconds, waiting for something. A crack. A window. A chance. But there was nothing left. She turned and walked away. Her heels clicked down the sidewalk like gunshots. Landon and I went inside. He didn't ask questions. He just threw his shoes off, opened the fridge, and grabbed a soda like nothing happened. But later that night, as we sat watching some old superhero movie on the couch, he leaned against me and said, "I'm glad she's not here." I kissed the top of his head. "Me too." And I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. Done with the roller coaster. Done with the what-ifs and the why-did-shes. That was the last time I saw her in person. The court granted me primary custody. She got supervised visitation once a month, which she skipped more often than not. Eventually, the emails stopped. The texts went silent. Jessica faded. Not in a tragic, poetic way, more like a candle that just runs out of wax. She became a ghost in our story. And honestly, that was the best thing she could have done for us. A year passed. It's strange how quickly chaos becomes memory. How the house that once echoed with shouting and slammed doors now carried only the quiet thud of a basketball bouncing in the driveway or the soft buzz of cartoons from the living room. Landon had grown, not just taller, but stronger in the way a boy becomes when he's seen truth early. He still asked about his mom sometimes, but not with pain. More like curiosity, the way you'd ask about a story you barely remember. "She ever say sorry?" he asked me once, tossing a football in our yard. I caught it, held it for a beat. "She tried," I said, "but not in the way that mattered." He nodded, like that was enough. Maybe it was. And me? I wasn't the same man she left. That version of me, the people pleaser, the doormat, the one who confused loyalty with self-erasure, he was gone. I rebuilt my confidence from the inside out. Got promoted at work. Started leading meetings instead of sitting in the corner. Even started dating again carefully. Slowly. I met someone at a bookstore, of all places. Her name was Maya. She asked smart questions. Listened when I spoke. Laughed without checking her phone. We're not rushing anything. I don't need to. I've learned that peace doesn't come from being with someone. It comes from being proud of the man you are when you're alone. But the biggest change? I found my voice again. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. One afternoon, I was clearing out the last of the boxes in the attic, the ones Jessica never claimed, when I found a photo album. Our wedding. Vacations. Her holding Landon in the hospital. I stared at the pictures for a long time. Not with anger. With understanding. We weren't fake. We were real until we weren't. And that's what betrayal does. It doesn't erase the past. It just rewrites the ending. I threw the album out. Not out of spite, out of release. I didn't need to carry those pages anymore. That night, Landon and I made dinner together. Tacos. Extra cheese. We sat outside, eating on paper plates, watching the sun dip below the rooftops. He looked at me and said, "You look happier now." I smiled. That's because I am. And I meant it. Not because life was perfect, but because I had walked through fire and came out standing. Because I had been lied to, cheated on, broken down, and instead of becoming bitter, I became better. So if you're reading this, if you're where I was, here's what I'll tell you. Let them go. Let them lie, run, twist the story. Let them take their fake love and their cheap thrills. You don't need to win them back. You need to win yourself back. It won't be easy. You'll wake up some mornings with a hole in your chest. But one day, that hole becomes a scar. And scars don't hurt. They remind you what you survived. So breathe. Stand up. And rebuild. Not to prove them wrong. To prove to yourself that you were always worth more than what they settled for. That's the man I became. And I wouldn't trade that man for anything in the world.